Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Pursuit's Winter 2025 release event. I'm Mike Vichik, co-founder and CEO of Pursuit. Today, we're addressing a fundamental shift in how opportunities are created and won in the public sector. A shift that's creating both new winners and new losers in the market. First, let me paint a picture of the old game. Success was built on relationships. The winners were those who had the best network of partners, consultants, lobbyists, and sales reps on the ground. Those relationships were golden because they provided privileged access to information about upcoming opportunities. But there was an inherent flaw in that approach. You couldn't possibly maintain relationships with every entity who was a buyer. Human labor was simply too expensive, and their scope of knowledge was limited, which forced organizations to carefully pick their battles and accept missing opportunities outside their network. But AI has ushered in a fundamentally new game, one that inverts the old model. Instead of relying on relationships to give us data, we now use data and AI to tell us which relationships to build. That's not just an incremental improvement. It's a complete paradigm shift in how public sector opportunities are created and won. This transformation will define winners and losers for decades to come. Those who continue playing the old game, relying on relationships to surface opportunities, will find themselves consistently outmaneuvered by organizations embracing this new AI-powered approach. With Pursuit, revenue grows because you'll identify opportunities 12 to 18 months before RFPs drop, and because you'll know exactly which accounts are the best targets, focusing your reps, team, and time on the accounts that matter the most. Think of it as a smart radar system scanning thousands of SLED accounts across your territory. But instead of showing you everything, it highlights only the signals that matter. You'll dramatically reduce your costs by targeting your spend on BD, consultants, sales capacity, and marketing precisely on the accounts that are best positioned to close. That's why I'm so excited to share our latest product breakthroughs. In a few moments, you'll see our new product release videos where we dive into 3 transformative pillars. First, we've doubled down on data. We've elevated our data collection and curation processes to cut research time by 75%, while increasing opportunity identification by 3x. Our enhanced AI algorithms now process over 100 million data points daily to surface only the most relevant insights for your business, essentially giving you a crystal ball into which relationships matter the most. Second, we've improved our usability. Every day we have thousands of users in our app. Making their time most efficient is a top priority of ours. We've streamlined the most common workflows to make everything faster and more intuitive, cutting the time to insight by 40%. We've also upgraded our AI chat features to help you compose better emails and prepare for meetings. What used to take hours of analysis can now be done in minutes, and it feels like you have a personal lobbyist prepping you for every single account. Third, we've deepened our CRM integrations. Building on the CRM integrations that we launched in our spring 2024 release, we've now dramatically enhanced these capabilities. You can filter accounts based on your territories, as defined in Salesforce or in HubSpot, instantly seeing when new contacts emerge or opportunities arise within your territory. We've also made it self-serve to both match accounts and to match contacts between your CRM and Pursuit. These new features make it easier to get value from Pursuit every single day, and they reduce the initial time to value for our new customers. These updates are an embodiment of this fundamental paradigm shift. Imagine pinpointing opportunities well before an RFP even lands on your desk, all by leveraging comprehensive, real-time insight. Imagine knowing exactly which relationships to invest in, backed by data that shows where the greatest potential lies. And we don't just build this technology, we live it. Our own pipeline team, our own BDRs, who create opportunities on behalf of our clients, use this data every single day. By dogfooding our own product, we're constantly discovering and building new features that generate more demand at lower cost. We're not just your technology partner, we're proof that this new approach works. And now, a glimpse of what's ahead in today's release. After the product videos, we'll dive into conversations with 2 leaders who exemplify this new era in SLED go-to-market. Stay tuned for an in-depth discussion with Eric DiProspero, the Chief Revenue Officer at OpenGov. Eric's story is a testament to the power of data-driven sales leadership. Starting out as an account executive in the East region 8.5 years ago, he worked his way up through the sales organization and was just promoted to Chief Revenue Officer at the beginning of this year. Under Eric's leadership, OpenGov has grown to a $1.8 billion market cap, mastering the use of data to power its go-to-market motion, and they've doubled down on AI throughout their entire company. Then we'll hear from Tyler Felous, an accomplished founder and entrepreneur who knows firsthand the value of data-driven decision-making. Tyler was my co-founder at our previous company, Wisely, which we successfully built and sold for $187 million. Having proven his ability to find product market fit and execute go-to-market strategies, Tyler is now on to his next adventure as co-founder and CEO of EM1, a promising startup developing software for emergency management departments. For founders building GovTech companies, Tyler will share his unique approach for how he used Pursuit from day zero. Before he had even decided which product to build, he was a Pursuit customer. Today is not just a product release, it's a milestone in the paradigm shift. The world will never be the same. The old approach of building relationships first and hoping for insights later is over. In its place, we have a data-driven approach that offers broader and more precise visibility into the SLED market, telling you exactly where to focus your relationship-building efforts for maximum impact. This is our commitment to empower you with tools that enable you to identify, pursue, pun intended, and close opportunities long before there are RFPs. Remember, the future is here. It's just unevenly distributed. Now, on to the product updates.
The rules of the game have changed. Yesterday, relationships gave you data. Today, data shows you which relationships to build before anyone else knows they matter. We've rebuilt our crawling engine from the ground up. Watch as it reaches every public sector website, every page, every document, creating the most comprehensive data set in government intelligence. This isn't just about better crawling, it's about better everything. More contacts discovered, more documents uncovered, and richer data flowing through every part of Pursuit. We've transformed how we understand roles and responsibilities. Now you can see the full picture, like a floodplain manager who spends 10% of their time on flood prevention and 90% in public works. Our confidence scoring has been upgraded too. It now not only confirms if someone's employed, but also tells you if they're actually reachable at the contact information we provide. Next up, document analysis. With our upgraded crawler feeding it more documents, our document analysis engine has made a massive leap forward. We now track over 50 different types of documents that provide signal to your early opportunity warning system, from ACFRs and budgets to strategic plans, technology plans, climate plans, transcripts, and everything in between. We're also gathering purchase orders, contracts, and data from open data portals across over 70,000 public entities. All of this intelligence powers our win probability models, so your team focuses on the opportunities most likely to close. Goodbye relationships, hello opportunities.
While having comprehensive data is crucial, we know that more data alone isn't the answer. In fact, in many products, more data actually creates more confusion and more friction. That's why we're taking a different approach. We've studied how our users work, mapping their most common workflows to ensure that every interaction with Pursuit delivers as much value as possible, as quickly as possible. Our philosophy is simple. Sellers should be selling, marketers should be marketing, and business development reps should be developing business, not wrestling with data. Pursuit revolutionizes your team's productivity. Let's take a look.
Every seller knows this truth. Time is your most precious resource. That's why we've rebuilt Pursuit's interface with one goal, making it faster and easier to build qualified pipeline, because in sales, tomorrow's opportunities are won or lost today. Let's start with account targeting. Our enhanced radar now lets you choose exactly what signals matter to you. We've stripped away the noise and focused on the atomic units that drive real opportunities. Want to get ahead of RFPs? Filter them out. Need to focus on specific documents? Zero in on climate plans, long-range technology plans, or comprehensive improvement plans. This precision carries over to entity research. Whether you're in radar or chatting with entities, your focused searches flow seamlessly. Want to understand the most common goals in Florida's climate plans for an upcoming event? Just ask. Prospecting? We've brought search front and center. Find that specific person or entity you're looking for, or quickly return to recent searches, right from the main screen. For sales teams with multiple products, we've made it simple to focus on your specific market. Navigate to customer filters, create new, and build views that show only the personas you care about. If you're selling permitting, licensing, or finance solutions, you'll see views tuned exactly for you, while your colleagues selling to procurement teams will see procurement contacts. The same precision extends to radar. Whether you're selling short-term rentals, alcoholic beverage control, occupational licensing, or fire prevention, build your perfect signal detector. Create your own prompts focused on your specific solutions, while keeping access to all your workspace-level prompts.
Your CRM is your team's home base, the place where opportunities are born and where deals get done. With teams already facing tool fatigue, the last thing they need is another complex system to learn. That's why we've doubled down on making Pursuit seamlessly integrate with where your team already works. When you choose Pursuit, there's virtually zero learning curve. The platform automatically adapts to your existing CRM structure, fitting like a glove with your existing territories, accounts, and workflows. Building on our prior releases, we've dramatically enhanced how Pursuit connects with your CRM.
Magic happens when your CRM and Pursuit work as one. Territory management, transformed. Connect Salesforce or HubSpot and watch Pursuit instantly align with your patch. Every radar scan, every entity chat, every intel search, laser focused on your territory. Think of it as your personal lobbyist, working 24/7 across every account you own. Using a different CRM? You're covered. Upload your territory as a CSV, and Pursuit will filter your view to show exactly what matters to you. Simple, fast, and flexible. New to Pursuit? We'll have you up and running in minutes. Upload your account list with whatever you have: names, websites, government IDs, and our smart mapping tool connects them to Pursuit entities instantly. No manual matching required. Your existing accounts? Ready to go. Drop your contacts into Pursuit and watch years of database decay transform into a pristine, beautiful database in seconds. Goodbye relationships, hello opportunities.
You've just seen how we're enabling a fundamental shift in public sector sales. Instead of using relationships to uncover data, we use data to pinpoint which relationships matter the most. But what does this transformation look like in practice? To answer that, I've invited two leaders who are already winning in this new era. First up is DiProspero, who's seen this evolution firsthand. Starting out as an account exec in OpenGov's East region 8.5 years ago, he worked his way up through the sales org to become CRO at the beginning of this year. Thanks in part to Eric, OpenGov has grown from a small startup to a $1.8 billion market cap company. Eric, super excited to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Awesome, Mike. Great to chat with you today.
So as background for the audience, could you just tell us about your journey at OpenGov? Like, what attracted you to the company and what's kept you excited about the mission?
Sure, yeah. So joined OpenGov about 8.5 years ago. As we say, it was kind of two guys and a trick duck in a garage. And way back when our focus was kind of financial transparency, right? But what attracted me originally to the company and the GovTech space really as a whole was just the opportunity and understanding the status quo for these governments and the need for modern cloud tools to allow governments to do better work. So through my journey there, obviously been able to be fortunate enough to lead regions and teams and now oversee the entire revenue organization. But really the vision and just the opportunity that's out there to help serve governments, bring modern cloud-based tools, to what we feel, and I think what many feel is really the most important industry in the world.
100%. Yeah. And it seems like it's a super interesting time in history to be doing what you're doing too, right? Like you had the cloud wave and now the AI wave. I'm curious to know, what do you believe now that you didn't when you first started out?
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, as the, I'll take it from like a go-to-market perspective, but as an individual contributor, right? You always get caught up in like, hey, I need more of this, I need more accounts, I need more, territory, and it's like it's a feeling of abundance, right? That's the only way that you can be successful. But my belief in having worked here and seen our success and using data and identifying, governments that we need to work with, and should be working with us, right? Is like, it's really a data-driven approach that, is successful, in a verticalized vertical SaaS company that is, serving one industry. I think the second thing as a leader is really building tenure and building teams from within, right? So when you think about your talent strategy, and government is a market that rewards tenure and thinks in time horizons of decades and generations, right? And we do think that we're a generational company. So when you align your talent strategy and your people strategy to that, and do so by bringing up your people from within, right? It's a pretty cool thing. I think a lot, historically people think, hey, I got to go hire a bunch of outside talent, bring them in, and get a bunch of mercenaries or what have you. And it's actually the opposite, right? It's like, sure, you can support your talent strategy from the outside, but building tenure, building people from within, building career paths, and building that longevity mirrors how the market and your customers think about the world as well.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, I think, mirroring your customer is super important. To follow up on something you said on the abundance point, I've heard folks say, like, when every time if we have reps that have thousands of accounts, if we make them focus on fewer accounts, we actually get better results. And I think sometimes from a rep's perspective, that might feel weird because it feels like your TAM as a rep is shrinking. So I'm curious, like, how do you think about that? Have you seen focus is better, or is it not necessarily the case?
100% focus is the way to go and better. Every time we as a company have continued to drive focus, drive depth, the impact has just been, it ratchets up every single time. We went originally, you talk about kind of like the journey at OpenGov. When I joined, we were 1 to maybe 1.5 product suites, right? We're now about to be 8 enterprise suites across all different offices, all different personas, in government. And, we used to have, sales reps that would sell everything, right? And they would have these really big territories. As we have, as a forcing function, asked our teams or required our teams to focus, go a mile deep instead of a mile wide into, sets of accounts. The results have been through the roof. And every time that we've kind of, turned the dial a little bit or done different things to increase that focus in certain areas, the results speak for themselves.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it people get to know the territory and the prospect customers better? Like, what drives that?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things. Yeah, one is obviously like, knowing the movers and shakers, right, in a region, right, from people to the professional orgs, right, the state level regulations and compliance, right, that often impact the need that drives technology, right? Being able to understand customer stories at a very deep level, and I think overall, like, this is just a market that rewards subject matter expertise, right? And quite frankly, knowing your stuff. So by having our teams, and this is not just sales, but this is our solutions engineering and customer success and marketing, right? And support and on and on and on. It's like knowing the depth of the subject matter, knowing the region by region trend, state by state, it's kind of even down to the county by county level. Knowing the key people, that's really what drives the success. Knowing the competitors, right? Knowing the competitors and knowing how to talk the talk and walk the walk against who you're going to see or what you're going to see.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, I think that's something that AI is going to really make more efficient, because I imagine today it
Totally.
takes a long time to learn all that stuff. And I think, that's one of the things that with Pursuit, we hope to enable your team to do more, is to, even allow the junior people on your team to get up to speed on procurement rules and how, the context that every individual government has. One thing I'd love to ask you about next is how have the customers evolved? Like, what's different about them? Like, as you walk through the cloud transition now into AI, there's obviously there's some turnover in the public sector teams as well. Folks that are now leading IT teams or finance departments are, they kind of grew up with tech. So how has the customer base evolved?
Yeah, great question. So, I look at it like BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, right? Before COVID, to get a customer on a Zoom call or a Teams call was a foreign concept, right? If you wanted to meet with a government, you were going down to City Hall, right? You're flying in, you're bringing the team, kind of the whole nine. COVID really changed the world, right? It was a forcing function to make everybody think differently, right? From remote work, and I'm speaking in generalizations here, but the advent of remote work, right? Hopping on a Zoom call or a Teams call became a lot more standard and the norm, right? And with that, follow that cloud transition, that digital transformation as well, where previously you may have had to sell the customers on cloud, right? You might say, hey, here's why cloud is better than custom developed software or on-prem software, right? And now it's like, that's table stakes, right? Like modern feature-rich software that's cloud-based that's table stakes, right? You're not necessarily selling on the cloud vision anymore. And so the customers become actually more sophisticated, right? In terms of, they are very educated coming into conversations in terms of, the market analysis, that they've done, or the research that they've done, or who they have seen at trade shows and industry events or on listservs. And then it's a lot more noisy, right? If you go out and you look at a lot of the companies that are out there, and we have competitors galore across the board, company wide, on our individual kind of product suites, it can be noisy, right? And it can be hard to differentiate, and that is certainly something that we see with different copycats and whatnot, and you have to drive a certain level of excellence and that depth and understanding of priorities and understanding of the customer's world to be able to actually go in and begin to differentiate and talk about, hey, here's how we're different. Here's how we see the world differently, and things like that.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny. I think copycats are a gift. They actually force you to level up and think harder about everything you do. What I'd love to move to next is, so we talked about how the market's evolved and how customers evolved, how your product suite's evolved. Talk to us about your go-to-market team. Like, what does it look like today? How does marketing and business development and sales and customer success, how do you think about each of those teams? How do they work together? And also, like, to the extent you can talk about it, like how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, for sure. How I would say how it's evolved, like thinking about it from inside of our four walls, is when we talk about like the focus, right? When we drive focus, but we also orient ourselves around the customer journey, right? And how a customer, researches, evaluates, decides, implements, renews, right? All of those parts of the customer journey and the activities that they do. That's how we orient ourselves here. And then when you think about like the focus and the problems that we're solving, we try to make it a well-oiled machine, right? And we've developed our own kind of internal methodology, right? You've got all these different methodologies and things that exist out in the wild, from Challenger and Force and what have you. And we kind of looked at all of them, and we said, there are in part and parcel, some of these are really good, but like we are such a unique company solving unique challenges that like we need to develop our own. And Exactly, right? Exactly. We pull pieces and like we take the Lego blocks and we build our own thing. That is our Govology, methodology. So that's how we orient all of our teams, both pre-sale, front of funnel, marketing, demand gen, to our sales development team, to our account executives and solution engineering, through to professional services, implementation, customer success, support, right? So you can just kind of follow it on and on. We are, there's no sugarcoating it. This is a very complex market, right? And, and the better cohesion and handoffs and transfer of information that you can, pass and move amongst teams, the better impact you're ultimately going to make for the customer.
Totally. That makes a ton of sense. And it's a good segue actually into, I think back to when you and I first met at that conference. You always believed in data. Like you always believed in AI. I didn't have to convince you of that at all. So let's talk about that. When you think about like your go-to-market machine, how does data and the intelligence that Pursuit is able to bring to the table, how does that help you guys drive revenue or be more efficient?
Totally. As you scale up, right, you're always looking at like, inputs and dollars in and dollars out and what's the return on what you're investing in or the activities. I think about it this way, a dollar spent on data today saves $10 on unnecessary, hiring or process tomorrow and $100 on opportunities you never know you may have missed, right? So that's that's something that certainly speaks volumes to the importance of data, right? And when you are in a vertical SaaS company, right, that's serving one market, right? Hey, there's not startup cities and startup villages and counties that are just cropping up overnight. There's a finite number of state agencies and cities and counties and special districts that exist, right? And that's your market, right? So when we think about data and developing a perspective on prospective customers, our current customers, things like propensity to buy, right? And just being way more educated and data focused, it allows us, to orient and direct our teams to the right activities as opposed to, wasted motions.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one of the things with Radar too is it actually does it helps what you described earlier, where you can go deeper, faster. Like basically within 2 seconds, a rep can now be prepped for every single account that they walk into a meeting with, the same way they might have a consultant or a lobbyist say like, hey, here's what's been going on. Here's all the projects they have in motion. This is part of this strategic plan. It ties back to this objective that the city council has set out. Here's the budget that they've talked about, that they've proposed, that they've approved. So all that data, it used to take, I actually think it was probably impossible to sift through before, but now it's just like you can get it in just a moment.
Absolutely. I mean, it would for a field-facing individual, whether that's account executive or a customer success manager, an SDR, to take their set of accounts or their prospects or their current customers and sift through all those budget books and strategic plans. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration. It would be impossible for them to get through all of those things for their set of accounts and still do their day job, right? They would spend all their time researching. And when you and I first kind of talked, and when you speak about Radar, it's like to make things simple and actionable and do it in 1/1000th of the time that it would take is really just a force multiplier, right? And a force multiplier for us as well.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to ask you about. It's like tactical in the go-to-market context is, you have a funnel, right? And at the top of the funnel, you already talked about this. You have all the state agencies and boards and commissions. You got cities, counties, K-12 districts, higher ed, and special districts. And depending on how you're counting, there's like north of 100,000 of all of those. And the thing that I find so interesting is figuring out, like, from that TAM, who's actually obtainable, right? Maybe someone else is in a contract, maybe they don't have budget, maybe they're too small, maybe they got other priorities. So the thing, when you think about that first step of the funnel, it's like, who should you be actually investing your time with? And if you invest your time chasing the wrong accounts, let's say you had 10 accounts and 5 of them were actually obtainable, 5 of them were not, it's like your rep is working half the time. So I'd be curious from your perspective, how do you think about the funnel and what matters at each of the steps?
Yeah, totally. And to underscore like the importance of your TAM to your the TAM to your product market fit to ICP, right? And working down to that level. I mean, we have a saying here, it's like every good deal dies twice. And really, now it's like 4 or 5 times, right? Between internal politics, not having the right people, in the room, budget cuts or constraints, like you said, competing priorities or competitive solutions, right? Like, hey, if you're closing 18 to 20%, of your opportunities as an account executive, like, you're fucking killing it. You're market leading, and that's just and that's kind of the nature of the business. But when we think about how do we go from, oh, I think these 10 would be great, to, well, it's actually really these 5, right? It's getting educated around that ideal customer profile, right? That ICP, and developing a perspective on that. And obviously, look, we've used Pursuit, and we've used first party data, third party data. We use a ton of different tools to really develop that perspective on ICP, which is evolving, and a bunch of different metrics from kind of all over the place, to really understand propensity to buy, and truthfully, like you said, right, it's like sometimes it takes, it's a very complex market. It takes a lot of elbow grease to get somebody into the funnel, right, through the funnel, closed, right, an actual contract and PO out the door. That, like, any wasted motion is just time and money wasted, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. So last thing before we wrap, I wanted to just kind of spitball about the future for a sec. I think in the post that where you guys announced that you were now CRO, I think I read that OpenGov is heading to 10,000 governments. That's the target, for the future. What do you think it takes to get there? Like, what do you guys have to continue doing? Anything you have to evolve on? What's that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So 2,000 now, on our way to 10,000 asterisk at least, right? We will surpass that, one day. But look, AI first, like, no bones about it. An AI first company strategy, that is both inside of our 4 walls, and to our customers as well, right? So this next evolution, right? Look, we're a leader in the space, and I think the market views us the same, and we want to be the AI leader as well. We very much are investing in things ourselves. We're bringing on partners and tools a la Pursuit. We are listening to the market and our customers on how they think about AI and the role of AI in the future. So I think that is number one, above and beyond. The second, I would say, is continuing to scale and grow and what we call smart growth or growth endurance, right? We've always we've always taken the position of responsibly growing, right? We're not in the business of hiring a bunch of 100 reps and cutting half of them by the end of the year, right? Like, we try to skate to where the puck is going, and and resource our teams and our talent appropriately. And as I talked about, like our internal talent strategy, like fully aligns to that, right? So when we bring people in that are, either fresh out of college or they're our SDRs or making a career jump or wherever it may be, and they want to get into enterprise software, gov tech, and then we're moving them through, kind of through our talent pipeline, giving them career opportunities and career progression. That's a huge thing, right? And that allows us to have that growth endurance and to have, a training ground and a bench of talent that we are just, consistently, moving through and allowing people to kind of grow, grow their careers and grow, honestly, their personal lives and, do all the things that they want to do and achieve, in service of on our way to 10,000 governments, right? And then I think the last thing is like, when we think about bringing it back to like data and intelligence is, knowing, look, we've got 8 enterprise suites of software right now across all different offices in the government. That will continue to grow and evolve. We need to have our ear to the customer, to our customers, to the ground, to prospective customers, to maybe areas that we aren't even in yet, and really understand like what this evolution is going to look like, whether it's AI, federal funding, Doge, infrastructure, you name it, right? Knowing and understanding and using data, perspective and insights to make those decisions in terms of how do we continue to make that impact for our customers, and what we believe is incredible market opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's funny. All 3 of those things I feel talking to you guys. I think the point about the team is phenomenal. Like everyone I've worked with at OpenGov has been amazing, super, super talented and like technically savvy, but also cares massively about the country and the governments that they serve. So that's been a total pleasure working with you. I'm such a fun talk, man. Thanks for joining. I'm pumped for the next 10 years ahead. Let's go get it.
Likewise, Mike. Yeah, appreciate you all in Pursuit and getting to know you. And I think you all are a very talented team and group of folks. And man, you can build some software pretty darn quickly. So we appreciate that as well. And looking forward to going on the journey with you.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Mike.
Those insights really demonstrate how data is reshaping go-to-market strategy at scale. Now, I want to introduce you to someone who knows firsthand the power of data in building and scaling companies. Tyler Felous was my co-founder at Wisely, where we leveraged data to build and ultimately sell the company for $187 million. Having proven his ability to find product market fit and execute data-driven go-to-market strategies, Ty is now on to his next venture as co-founder of EM1, a promising startup developing innovative software for emergency management departments. His perspective is particularly valuable because he's seen both sides: how to use data to scale an established business, and how to use it to find early market opportunities in a new company. Tyler, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So my first question for you, after you already had an exit as a founder, why start another company at all?
Yeah, I asked myself that same question. And I think what I came to is, I think as a capitalist at the end of the day, right, I believe that the profit motive is a great way to find out if you're doing something that matters, right, and have impact, right? And so when I was looking for that next thing that I wanted to spend my time on, the hammer that I knew and felt comfortable with was a company. I considered, should it be a nonprofit? Should it be, something else? But I kept coming back to, it's really powerful when you ask somebody, how much will you spend to solve this problem? And that gives you the confidence and conviction that you're doing something that matters.
Yeah. So I'm curious, there's a lot of places you could have focused on. How'd you pick emergency management?
Yeah, well, the fun thing about starting a company is you don't know where you're going to end up. I could not have told you that it would have ended up here. I started more from, I think, wanting a few things on an important set of check boxes to be true. One was a problem that I thought was not going away. If anything, it would get bigger or at least stay, relevant for a long time. Two was a customer that I could see myself working hard for, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're, grinding and in the trenches or getting that late night phone call, you want to pick it up and know that you're working for someone that you respect.
You gotta really, really care about them. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I started more from like a climate lens, right? And hey, like there's a new disaster on TV every day if you actually pay attention, whether it's impacting 20,000 people or 2 million people or more. So I started looking at what are we doing outside of all the awesome technological breakthroughs around energy on weathering the storm, right? Because the science says that the next 30 years or maybe next 50 years are going to get worse before they get better. And fast forward, I kind of found this agency in government that's responsible for all of those disasters, whether it was forest fire, flood, drought, food insecurity, flooding. They all kind of flow into this one office. And then I came to learn that environmental disasters were one bucket of work. They also deal with what they call man-made disasters, which are active shooter or terrorism. And so all in, it checked. And then I met a few of these folks. I kind of said, oh, this seems interesting. Let's see what's here. How are they solving problems? The first checkbox I mentioned was checked easily because I don't think those disasters are going away. It was the second one where I got really much more convicted because I met the folks, and I think there's a conception, I won't call it a misconception, but a conception that folks in government don't work that hard. And I went and met some of these emergency managers, and they're working overtime. They're in the office every weekend, late night, 24/7 call center. So I said, okay, these folks are, have too much in their portfolio already. It's growing. Maybe technology can help.
Totally. And I think I remember talking with you about that as you were forming the ideas. And I'd love to have you unpack for us. I think as I've heard from you, there's kind of like before a disaster, during a disaster, after one, or an emergency, however you want to call it. And each of those areas is massive. You could maybe build an entire public company out of each of those parts. So like how did one of the hard parts always like figuring out where to focus? What drove your decisions around that?
Yeah, it changed honestly from the beginning to where we started to find traction. Because where I initially got excited,
right?
Yeah, that's going to be a theme. Where I started was, I would say more in the response category of like, hey, we have all these IoT devices, we have more ability, drones, you name it, cameras that build situational awareness. How do we bring all that into one place? But as I had more conversations, and it was really through that process that, the answer I'm going to give came out of, I also wanted to have a product that when we spoke to the market, it resonated across the board. And the fact of the matter is there is a disaster happening, every day in a different place, but not every day, for each one of these offices. And so where as I asked them, hey, what do you do? What they call a blue sky day versus a dark sky day, blue sky being when there is not something bad happening. What does that look like? And it's all about preparedness and resilience and mitigation. And so that was something that every office was doing, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like they spend most of their time on that.
Exactly.
As an individual office, right? Yeah.
Exactly. There may be years in between an activation of an emergency operations center. And so that was, kind of a very low risk place to say, if we save you time here, we will be doing that for every office across the country. And so that's where I really started asking discovery questions in that bucket around before. I can keep going.
Let's talk about that, because let me guess. you spent 12 months sitting in some dark basement, cooking up product ideas, building software without talking to anybody, right?
Luckily, I knew better this time around. When you and I started, doing this 15 years ago or whatever it was, I think we did some of that. And we learned through pain that it wasn't the best process. So no,
literally never do that.
Yeah. yeah. If any new entrepreneurs are listening, please don't do that unless you want pain. No, it was very much getting out and talking to people and asking questions, right? Like, and they sounded like dumb questions. Yeah, what do you actually do? Like, how do you spend your day? What's hard? What's easy? What do you like? What do you not like? What systems are you using? Are they good? And doing that over and over and over.
Over and over and over again. Yeah, it's funny. I remember, as Brandon and I were starting Pursuit, you and Gunnar had been starting EM1, and there was a phenomenal quote that you had one day that I'll never forget, which is basically, if you walk out of a customer discovery meeting and you're disappointed, then it wasn't a discovery meeting, it was a sales meeting. And I think that mindset of like trying to be more scientific about it is such an important thing for early stage founders. But I think in public sector, one of the hard parts is like, where do you even start? Like, who are these emergency managers? Like who has an emergency manager? So let's shift into like how you did that tactically. And I'd love for you to just walk through like the infrastructure you set up, even like before you had your first customer, before you had a product. I know the answer, but what was the first thing that you bought? What was the first tool you bought?
Yeah, it was Pursuit. And not just because I knew a guy, but because I knew in order to scale conversation, like the most important thing I think to scale or accelerate to start a company or when you're building a company is learning, right? Like if you can increase velocity on learning, at the end of the day, like you will surpass whoever else you're up against. At least that's my belief. And so to scale that, it's conversations, right? And so I really, I would say I was coming in as unconnected, whatever you want to say. I knew nobody, literally no one. This was a category that I knew, I knew what FEMA was. I did not know there was a patchwork of thousands of these offices across the country. And so I went out of two different directions, which ended up, I would recommend this to somebody else who's getting started, which is cold outreach, pure, like, I don't want to say boiler room, but you get the idea, right? Like you got to get on the phone, call people you don't know, and see if they'll engage with you, if they have a problem to solve, if they are motivated to solve it. And I did that through Pursuit, and obviously I knew you, but my view was I also knew back from our days at Wisely, like being data driven and how you go do those cold calls and having a system that you can kind of fine grain target who you're going to talk to makes you more efficient. And so I adopted that from the start.
By the way, on that point, there's a great quote from Dharmesh Shah, the founder of the CTO of HubSpot, and he talks all day about how if you just define the problem better, right? Like that, he in his mind, like the reason why HubSpot is so successful is they define the problem better than everybody else, right? And I think what you're talking about is like, if you know who the market is and you call them and you literally get them on the phone just to understand what they're doing every day, to your point about learning, it's an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I mean, my cold call script was not, it was, hey, I'm Tyler. I'm an entrepreneur who's interested in building some technology in this category. I have a few questions if you can give me 5 minutes today. But that was how it started, right? And people said, sure, shoot, Tyler, what can I do to help you out, right?
You're trying to help me? cool.
Yeah,
You know?
I was shocked coming from calling restaurants, right? Because first thing they do is say sorry now and hang up on you, right? So these folks who are willing to talk, which also, like, I would say my conviction through these steps grew because of the behavior that I felt from the market, which was like they wanted help, and so. On the other side, and just to cover back to like the two different things I did also try and go with introductions where I could get them, right? Like a warm intro does open a door, and I was trying to open those. And so it was kind of the 1-2 punch of warm intros plus cold outreach that I'd say both of those have borne, fruit as we've gotten the company stood up.
Yeah, totally. In my mind, warm intros are great. Once you've homed in on a problem and a solution and you're trying to take it to market, sure, like use every one you can get, but you don't want to get a false positive, and you also don't want to waste time. So that's, to your point, that's where the cold conversations come in. So you bought Pursuit. That was your first tech stack purchase. What else did you do in the early days, just from a tech stack point of view?
It was really just Pursuit, and I adopted HubSpot. Funny you mentioned Dharmesh. And it's nice that they work together, right? So the integration there made it incredibly easy. Like, and I had built out some of those stuff back at Wisely of cold outbound email sequences, right? That had 1, 3 days later, email 2, 2 days later, email 3. If you reply, you get knocked out. And so I had, I turned that script that I mentioned around, hey, I'm an entrepreneur interested in chatting about problems, into a sequence that, and then reason why HubSpot was important, one, it automates those emails for you, and you just feed, new contacts from Pursuit, drop into the sequence. And then what I would do is I'd keep an eye every day on who was opening or clicking on those emails, and then they'd get a phone call. So I wasn't, completely taking the shotgun approach to the calls. It was kind of like, hey, if you engage with my content, I'm gonna give you a call.
Yeah, totally. I think that is one of the smartest ways to figure out who's in the market. And we're not going to talk about radar in this one right now, but being able to pull in marketing campaign data so that you can actually see who's engaging with your emails. That's a great way to figure out who to focus on. So if you can, take us through some of the metrics, right? So like how many emails are you sending? And I don't know the way you think about this, but in my mind, like how many emails are you sending? How many calls? What are the conversion rates into, getting meetings booked, and then, into customers, and, I guess opportunities and then customers. Like, how do you think about that funnel and what's worked?
Yeah. I would say, the lore in startup land is if you find one channel that works, that's all you need to, continue.
Most companies find zero. Yeah.
Find zero, right? Yeah. And so I'll go through the metrics, but what I would say is, as I was kind of preparing for this and just pulling the data together, we have more than one, right? Like warm intros have gotten us, let's call it a third of our meetings. Cold email has gotten us about a third of our meetings. And cold calls have gotten us about a third of our meetings. You could sprinkle in, like, we've done some LinkedIn automation where we do outbound through, friending folks on LinkedIn, sending messages. That's been a much smaller amount, although we just started. Email, so there's maybe we're 6 months into this, a little bit longer now. I just took a look, close to 7,500 emails, right? And that's not that many people, because we might send them 5 emails. But half of those that get opened, 10% get clicked, 10% get replied to. And I think we've gotten maybe closer to 1% meeting rate just from email, right? And that has a, hey, book my calendar here type of call to action in those. Calls blow that out of the water when it comes to effectiveness. We've done a few hundred
Also
calls.
harder for you to be on the phone all day doing it, right? You can send more emails than calls, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. I can press a button and the emails go, and it's hundreds or, a day. Calls, we've done a few hundred, and we track whether we leave a voicemail, we connect with somebody, leave a live voicemail, no answer, whatever. And the connection rate, which again is like, hey, we had a conversation of a minute or two, or sometimes it's 20 minutes, is 30%. So we're connecting, and then of those 30% that pick up the phone and talk with me, 20% of those book a meeting. So
that's huge, right? It works. I mean, cold calling works. That's why there are BDR teams, and that's why AEs have to be on the phones.
It works.
It's hard work.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add that I thought was interesting as I looked at this stuff, preparing for this. Email has gotten more effective over time, and my explanation for that is we had more to talk about. At the beginning we didn't have a product. There was not much to click on. Now the emails have short videos that I narrate a demo, and some success metrics we can include based on early customers. So cold calling, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but a voice and interesting questions is more compelling than an email with, can I use some of your time, with maybe no payoff. So that's been interesting to see email get more effective over time.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. Well, let's take a step back and look future for EM1. What do the next 12, 24 months look like, in your mind's eye, or even if you want to answer on a longer time horizon than that?
Yeah. For me, what I'd say to folks is the name of the company is EM1 because we thought there's an opportunity for an all-in-one emergency management solution. So that's what EM1 is, right? All-in-one emergency management. And that's the 10-year vision, right? Because before there's preparedness and resilience mitigation, right? Trying to make the impact of disaster as low as, as minimal as you can. But once you're in response, there's incident management, there's alerting and mass notification. Once you're in a recovery, there's all the tracking around reimbursement. So, but all those tools are disconnected today, right? So where you're getting your situational awareness is not helping you create your incident action plan, or sit rep automatically. So I think there's reason, not just from a convenience standpoint, but from the data being in one place makes everything more powerful standpoint, to have an all-in-one solution. So we're kind of, that's the path. In terms of the next year, I think the good news is the market is pulling more solutions out of us on this preparedness side. And so we're just listening and chopping down the next biggest problem folks bring our way.
Totally. I love that story. So closing, I guess, on the topic of GovTech, one of the things that I've heard, I'm curious your perspective on this, is a great growth rate for a GovTech company might be 50, 60% year over year, right? That would be phenomenal. 70% would be out of this world. But for most investors in venture, that doesn't even register on their radar. Right? 70% growth is not amazing when you're compared to Cursor or Wiz or OpenAI or all those companies. So that makes it traditionally, I mean, there are GovTech VCs, but it kind of makes it tougher to raise from VCs. And then on the other hand, once you do get to a place where you've got, you have some revenue under you, 5 million, 10 million, maybe even less. Private equity folks love that because they look at the retention and it's super high gross retention. So you maybe 98, 99% gross retention. And so those PE investors are really happy with a 50% growth rate with super high retention and ability to cash flow. For you as a second time founder, obviously you know the pros and cons of raising money. How do you think about that? How do those dynamics affect how you think about raising capital or growth for EM1?
Yeah. I think they're really important, right? Because if the way I think about it is the problem is what matters, right? And like we went through the process of how I picked. Like I had the opportunity, privilege, whatever you want to call it, to sit up and think about what I wanted to spend time on, and so for me, everything is in service of reaching and like working on that problem. And so, what's it? That's it. Yeah. And so to me, like any company should think about how to fund itself to maximize its chances of solving the problem, right? And in certain cases, if you're building rockets, that's going to mean one thing, right? And so, just making that really specific, I'm trying to find out what our growth rate is going to look like. I don't know yet, and as a result, we haven't raised money. My co-founder Gunnar and I are not paying ourselves, right? We're bootstrapping the business and trying to live off of the revenues we're creating, and grow the business like that until we really see, and we're starting to clear signal that we should be pressing the gas.
And those
so,
opportunity costs to not.
Exactly. It's like, hey, if we care about solving the problem, well, solving it for more people faster matters. And it also, back to velocity of learning, feeds the company with, information that we can get better faster. So I think the key thing though there is also, like, we saw through the arc of, up to 2021 and the valuations that happened, and then what came after that, the way you fund your company is as important in its survival as product market fit. It impacts founder motivation, employee motivation, right?
Founder decision making. I think a lot of people are like more money's better, and we don't think it is necessarily.
Yeah. In fact,
good critical thinking is what matters.
Yeah, it blows a lot of companies up. So punchline, I would say is, I don't think we're at a point right now where GovTech is like getting these mega rounds and $100 million rounds and things like that, because there is some constraint around, like, you can't get around the fact that procurement takes longer, and the budget process is once a year, and if it's not in the budget, it's got to go into discretionary funds, or even pay as you go. Like, all these things are not yet kind of part of the normal way of operating in government. I think that's going to change, and I do think, as folks that are tech native or AI native, whatever, like, get into those jobs, the expectations and the needs will start to adjust, and so that's a tailwind that I'm excited about.
So I guess, Ty, there's a lot of people out there that are starting out. I actually talked to a founder yesterday who's in a similar spot to you, maybe a little earlier. And then there are other companies who are outside of government or public sector who are wanting to break in. And, I think it might be interesting for those people, new founders or companies trying to break into the market, to talk to you and hear your experience. Are you cool broadcasting your contact deets to the world and having people reach out? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Tyler@em1.com is my email. So hit me up there.
Cool.
I'm all about paying it forward. I think some of the things that I've taken advantage of building this company came from GovTech founders that have done it before, giving me a few secrets along the way. At the end of the day, my view is like, it is harder right now to build a GovTech company than a private sector company, but someone's got to do it, right?
Totally.
And we need those people to come help our country stronger, better, right? And so everybody come on in. We need more. If I can help, hit me up.
Cool. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
For sure.
Let's bring this full circle. We began today by acknowledging a fundamental truth. The old game of relying solely on relationships to surface opportunities is over. Those who continue playing by those rules will be left behind in the decades to come. The future belongs to organizations that harness AI and data to tell them which relationships to build. With these Winter 2025 release items, we're delivering on that future in 3 powerful ways. First, by processing more data than ever before to surface opportunities 12 to 18 months before an RFP drops. Second, by making that data instantly actionable through an experience that feels effortless and intuitive. And third, seamlessly connecting Pursuit to your CRM, eliminating adoption hurdles and making our platform feel like it's always been part of your tech stack. Today's release isn't just about new features. It's about redefining what's possible in public sector sales. It's giving you the power to see opportunities that others miss, to focus resources where they matter the most, and to win more deals with less waste. This is the new game. And with Pursuit, you're perfectly positioned to win it. Thank you for joining. See you in May for our spring release.